Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech Adon Yechol HaShalom. Ki atahu melech Adon Yechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha livarech et Abba Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim
Magical, as always.
Toda Rabba. Achi, Toda Rabba.
Aki, yes. Oh, brilliant. Shalom. All right, this week, it's so funny because every time we get to a new portion, I'm always thinking like this is the week where all heck breaks loose with the golden calf. But it's not. We got another week of just building the temple.
This part portion has some favorite themes of mine in it.
Oh, excellent.
One in particular, but I'll talk about it after as we go on.
As we get into it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I got to get pumped up. I'm kind of like low energy tonight. I don't know what it is.
We should start off, instead of music, we should do like a little Jack LaLanne thing, you know?
I know. Yeah, really.
Okay, everybody, inhale. Exhale.
I thought you were going to say jumping jacks.
Yeah, well, we do that too with Jack LaLanne.
Oh my gosh. How about Cynthia? Do you want to start with this? We're in Exodus 27:20.
Further instruct the Israelites to bring your clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling lamps regularly. Aaron and his sons shall set them up in the tent of meeting outside the curtain, which is over the ark of the pact, to burn from evening to morning before the Eternal. It shall be a dew from the Israelites for all time throughout the ages. So that must be the eternal light, right? The near to mid? Is that what they mean? You shall bring forward your brother Aaron with his sons from among the Israelites to serve me as priests. Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron. Make sacral vestments for your brother Aaron for dignity and adornment. Next, you shall instruct all who are skillful, whom I have endowed with the gift of skill, to make Aaron's vestments for consecrating him to serve me as priest. These are the vestments they are to make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a fringed tunic, a headdress, and a sash. They shall make these sacral vestments for your brother Aaron and his sons for priestly service to me. They therefore shall receive the gold, the blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and the fine linen.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. We talk about the near tamid, but what's important to keep in mind is it's something that's supposed to be kept burning, and it does kind of burn forever, but it doesn't burn forever unless it's continuously rekindled. And, sometimes it's just like that with your own life, your own spirit, Sometimes you feel like the flame's flickering a bit and you just need to rekindle it. But that's an important,
So what I want to ask, though, but she mentioned, is this why we have the eternal light in the synagogues, or did that start after the temples were built?
No, well, this is when they were given the instructions to light
Okay.
to keep the lamp in front of the ark burning.
Okay,
That
so
is
it
the
was before the temple was built. Okay, that's what I want to know.
They were given the instructions. you know.
Okay.
But that's just something that I like to throw out there. The fact that it does burn, but you have to continually, he has to light it every day.
Right, I
It's
hear you.
supposed to be kept burning, but it's not just, like it's lit once and it just burns forever and you don't pay attention to it.
You're comparing this to life?
Yeah, I do.
No, I
To life and to ourselves, because we're all supposed to be like a near tamid. We're all supposed to be a light.
unto the nation.
Sometimes you might not, you spare it or whatever, but sometimes you need to rekindle yourself and keep yourself burning bright, but you always got to do it.
Very deep, Gary. It's a very,
Yep.
very
Like the Maha,
The Maharishi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maha Murray.
Murray. Mitch and Murray. Don't go. Let's not go there.
Oh, that's good stuff.
That's great, though. That's awesome. I feel like I need to get rekindled tonight. All right. So yeah, why don't we keep going? So I'm looking down here too. There's a lot of talk about that exact same stuff about the Ner Tamid in the commentary. But why don't you keep going, Cynthia? At number 6.
They shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen worked into designs. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces attached. They shall be attached at its 2 ends. And the decorated band that is upon it shall be made like it, of 1 piece with it, of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen. Then take 2 lazuli stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel. 6 of their names on the 1 stone, and the names of the remaining 6 on the other stone, in the order of their birth. On the 2 stones you shall make seal engravings, the work of a lapidary, of the names of the sons of Israel, having bordered them with frames of gold. Attach the 2 stones to the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones for remembrance of the Israelite people, whose names Aaron shall carry upon his 2 shoulder pieces for remembrance before the Eternal. Then make frames of gold and 2 chains of pure gold. Braid these like corded work and fasten the corded chains to the frames. You shall make a breastpiece of decision worked into a design. Make it in the style of the ephod. Make it of gold, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen. It shall be...
What were you going to say, Myrna?
Yeah, you have to go back. Go back the page before this. There's an explanation of the Ner Tamid, and it's entirely different from what we just assumed.
Oh, okay. Well,
See
are we
that?
looking at this down here? Okay.
Yep.
You want to read it?
Okay, lamps regularly. The lights were to be kindled on the lampstand previously described. The translation of Ner Tamid as perpetual light or eternal light is grammatically inaccurate and is also contradicted by verse 21. The so-called Ner Tamid of the synagogue is of much later origin. And it's
Well.
essay on page
Wow.
73.
Oh, so I wasn't so smart.
Interesting. So that's what I thought too, that it wasn't until the temple was built. That was what I
They would
thought.
because they were given instructions for things that hadn't actually happened yet. They were given the instructions.
But it didn't go further afield without seeing that, because as we were turning, I said, "Oh my gosh, they really, explain it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
But 21, all right, so kindling lamps. I'm just looking at 21. So outside the curtain, which is over the Ark of the Pact, to burn from evening to morning before the Eternal. So it burned through the night? Is that it? Is that...
It always burns. Well, now it does.
Night.
Now it
And,
always...
and just like Gary said, it had to be rekindled all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Gary was...
And this is not a permanent thing yet, because they do have to move, and when they move, they take the whole thing with them.
Yeah, and they can't have the light going on when when they're moving. Yeah.
But it's just interesting because it almost seemed that that's where it came from, but it really
Right.
doesn't.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And can you just imagine how beautiful these all these things are so beautiful. You know, I love the
Right.
concept of how important it was to get dressed up in the garments and the stones and engraving the lapzuli, the lapis lazuli, which is blue stones, I believe. They're really
Yeah.
blue. And
That ties in with the other theme that I was going to talk about is like what you wear. It's like if you took I distinctly remember, as I say, back in the days when I used to get to lead services on a Friday night, I did a devar talking about this, and maybe even on Saturday I might have done the same one. But um, I was saying that if you had like a state trooper, a fireman, a football player, and the orderly in an operating room all standing together naked, you wouldn't know who does what. And it's like you think about if a like a police officer, a state police officer, you know, they have their uniforms look a little more intimidating than like a local police. You know what I mean? They project something, and it's so like in this here, like we talk about the materials and the perfection that goes into it, but this is because they're, you know, they're ministering to God.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So it's not really like that, you know, like the priest is supposed to be dressed up as a vanity thing for them. And it's the same thing for us. Like when you go to the sanctuary,
mm-hmm.
you know, for a service, like, you know, you get dressed differently than when you know, it's but it's like the what you wear. A lot of times it's the first impression when you meet somebody. If they were wearing a pair of jeans with holes in them and a dirty T-shirt, or wearing an expensive tuxedo or something,
Right.
it affects your initial perspective. It's such a major thing. But, you know, in this case, it's really so specific because we're talking about God. It's even more so.
No,
But just
you must have heard Shalom talk about this too, that when they captured the enemy, they managed to make sure that the uniform was off because it gives the person wearing it much more confidence. And
when they're
without
in their underwear, they don't feel
right,
that tough
you got it.
anymore.
So
Yeah,
and Shalom said that when he was fighting, that this is
it's
one of the things
true.
they would do.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't be wearing like a pink tutu if you were going into battle, you know? You
I'd
know,
like to see that.
it's just what
Like
you
an
wear.
image you just brought up.
Well, that was like I was watching an old episode of The Honeymooners, and Ralph had won some award for being the safest bus driver, and he thought he was going to get his picture on the cover of a magazine. He
Yeah.
said, when you did that story on Marilyn Monroe, you had her on the cover of the magazine. The guy said, Mr. Cramden, if you want to get into wear a bikini bathing suit, we'll put you on the cover. I just figured
That's
I'd share
funny.
that because we're talking about what to wear, but
Right.
it is a really important, incredible thing. It's, you
No,
know,
definitely.
if a state trooper came up to you, like, and they didn't have that uniform on, you know, if they were just wearing like a pair of jeans or something,
Yeah.
and they
Right.
came up and
It
said, okay,
doesn't make
license,
it
you
as
know,
effective. I understand.
yeah, it doesn't intimidate as much, but it's the
Right.
uniform,
Right.
you know, as well as the person, but the uniform, what you're wearing gives it,
Right.
like the Beatles used to wear, you know, they used to wear
Absolutely.
T-shirts, leather jackets, and
Yeah.
jeans in their early days, and slicked hair back. And
Teddy
Brian
bear
Epstein made them wear suits and stuff. Bow after each number.
Yeah, it was a
No, you can see that in babies too. The little kids, you know, you dress a little girl up and oh my gosh, she preens and you know, she thinks she's adorable. And of course the boy could care less. But although I had a son who insisted on having a jacket with a vest and a bow tie and pants to match for Passover when we went to temple. And he
Uh-huh.
was like 3 years old. It drove me crazy.
Well,
But
that's not, I think that's great.
Is that Brian or Matthew?
not Brian, Matthew.
Ah,
Brian was very, whatever I said or did, it was fine. Matthew was one of a kind.
That's great. Ruth, did you want to pick up at 16, right on the top?
At the top. Ooh, okay, here it is. It shall be square and doubled, a span in length and span in width. Set in it mounted stones in 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a row of carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald. The second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and an amethyst. The third now, a jacinth, an agate, and a crystal. And the fourth row, a beryl, a lapis lazuli, and a jasper. They shall be framed with gold in their mountings. The stones shall correspond in number to the names of the sons of Israel, 12 corresponding to their names. They shall be engraved like seals, each with its name for the 12 tribes. On the breastplate, make braided chains of corded work in pure gold. Make 2 rings of gold on the breastpiece and fasten the 2 rings at the 2 ends on the breastpiece, attaching the 2 golden cords to the 2 rings at the ends of the breastpiece. Then fasten the 2 ends of the cords to the 2 frames, which you shall attach to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front. Make 2 rings of gold and attach them to the 2 ends of the breastpiece at its inner edge, which faces the ephod. And make 2 other rings of gold and fasten them on the front of the ephod, low on the 2 shoulder pieces, close to its seam above the decorated band. The breastpiece shall be held in, the breastpiece shall be held in place by a cord of blue from its rings to the rings of the ephod, so that the breastpiece rests on the decorated band and does not come loose from the ephod. Wait a minute. Aaron shall carry the names of the ephod. Aaron shall carry the names of the sons of Israel on the breastpiece of decision over his heart when he enters the sanctuary for remembrance before the Eternal at all times. Inside the breastpiece of decision, you shall place the Urim and the Thummim, so that they are over Aaron's heart when he comes before the Eternal. Thus Aaron shall carry the instrument of decision for the Israelites over his heart before the Eternal at all times. Before I go on, I just want to mention, I don't remember this whole discussion on decision, the breastplate of decision, this something of decision. When did that come up in this thing? I don't remember that.
That's weird. I don't remember.
I don't
Yeah.
remember this at all.
Carry the instrument of decision. Was that on the last page too, or just on this page?
Just this page. I don't remember why it was on here. It's just trying to.
Oh, here it is, the breastpiece of decision.
Okay.
Or
Judgment is called because of the ornament is contained. A similar nature was found in the tomb of the king of the something. The piece is called Choshen HaMishpat in verse 30, which name was given to the 4th parts of both Tur and Shulchan Aruch. Okay, the Shulchan major works on Jewish law. See, the breastplate was attached to the ephod. It doesn't explain what the decision was. That's what I was trying to understand. But
I wonder if way back, if some people they tried to make something similar, the priests of old, because at this point, most of the time, if it's a holiday, like the priests will wear white. This is so complicated and complex. I just wondered if it ever was used again.
I don't know. I've never heard this before. Yeah.
Could it be that the decision had to have something to do with judgment?
Yeah, I think
that's what that's saying.
Yeah,
in
that's
the,
a really good point.
Okay, and something would show on the breastplate as to what the judgment should be.
Right. And it was very important that it was on the heart. That was very specific about the heart too.
And it's contained within the breastplate.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that rim and thummim. That's a new one to me. Does
I never
know what it
remember.
actually means? Is there an explanation of that?
Let's go down further. See. See the essay on page 573, robe of the ephod. This is under the ephod.
Yeah, I see that 30.
Yeah, I have to go to 573.
You want me to go to 573?
Yeah.
All right, we're going deep. Hang on, everybody.
Getting in deep.
We're going in over our
Oh,
heads.
here we are.
Okay, yeah.
Uberman Thuman.
Do you want to read it, Myrna?
All right, that says go ahead, Myrna.
I read already. Let's have
Oh.
somebody else. I'm sharing.
Okay. I'll read it. I gotta wake up. The biblical evidence about. Okay, hold on. Hang on. Let me get a little more scholarly. Oh, the biblical evidence about the nature of the oracular devices called Urim and Thummim is neither clear nor consistent. Okay, that's clear as mud. They are introduced into the Torah text as items that were well known and needed no explanation. Okay.
Sounds like they're oracles, like.
So they could be.
I do think that Myrna's right. It's something that happened a long time ago and hasn't continued.
Right. 31. We're down at 31.
Okay, I'll continue. All right. You shall make the robe of the ephod of pure blue. The opening for the head shall be in the middle of it. The opening shall have a binding of woven work round about. It shall be like the opening of a coat of mail, so that it does not tear. Okay. On its hem, make pomegranates of blue, purple, and crimson yarns. And make pomegranates of blue, purple. Okay. All right. Well, I'll figure that out later. All around the hem with bells of gold between them all around. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe. Aaron shall wear it while officiating, so that the sound of it heard when he comes into the sanctuary before the Eternal, and when he goes out, that he may not die. Ooh, this is heavy duty now. You shall make a frontlet of pure gold and engrave it on it the seal inscription, holy to the Eternal, suspended on a cord of blue, so that it may remain on the headdress. It shall remain on the front of the headdress. It shall be on Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may take away any sin arising from the holy things that the Israelites consecrate, from any of their sacred donations. It shall be on his forehead at all times, to win acceptance for them before the Eternal. You shall make the fringed tunic of fine linen. You shall make the headdress of fine linen. You shall make the sash of embroidered work. Okay. And for Aaron's sons also you shall make tunics and make sashes for them, and make turbans of unusual strength, a reinforced edge.
I think we went a little too far.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, make turbans. I'm sorry. Keep on going on. Turbans for them, for dignity and adornment. Put these on your brother Aaron and on his sons as well. Anoint them and ordain them and consecrate them to serve me as priests. Ooh, this is a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
You
Dr. Ed is here as the top hatter.
Yeah. Stop to think about the weight of all of this.
I know. I was thinking about the specifics more than anything.
Wow.
You shall also make for them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. They shall extend from the hips to the thighs. They shall be worn by Aaron and his sons when they enter the tent of meeting, or when they approach the altar to officiate in the sanctuary. So they do not incur punishment and die. It shall be a law for all time for him and for his offspring to come. Boy, we haven't been following this from all time to come. Okay, this is when you shall do to them in consecrating them to serve me as priests. Take a young bull of the herd and 2 rams without blemish, also unleavened bread, unleavened cakes with oil mixed in, and unleavened wafers spread with oil. Make these of choice wheat flour. Place these in one basket and present them in the basket along one basket, and present them in the basket along with the bull and the 2 rams. Lead Aaron and his sons up to the entrance of the tent of meeting and wash them with water. Then take the vestments and clothe Aaron with the tunic, the robe of the ephod, and the breastplate, and grid him with the decorated band I'm sorry, and gird him with the
Gird him,
decorated band of the ephod. I don't know how to pronounce that, ephod or ephod. Put the headdress on his head and place the holy diadem upon his headdress, upon the headdress. Take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. Then bring his sons forward, clothe them with tunics and wind turbans upon them, and gird both Aaron and his sons with sashes, and so they shall have priesthood as their right for all time. You shall then ordain Aaron and his sons, lead the bull up to the front of the tent of meeting, and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the head of the bull. Slaughter the bull before the Eternal as the entrance of the tent of meeting, and take some of the bull's blood and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger. Then pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Take all the fat that covers the entrails, the protuberance on the liver, and the 2 kidneys with the fat on them, and turn them into smoke upon the altar. The rest of the flesh of the bull, its hide and its dung, my God, shall be put to the fire outside the camp. It is a purgation offering.
What do you think of this? It's a beauty. We have a
Not
beautiful
much.
thing. Not much.
And then we have this awful.
I am glad that later on that they were told that God does not want burnt sacrifices.
I know, but that's much later on. Okay.
No, but that's what I keep looking forward to because
I know. We just have to get through this. Okay.
we have to soldier on, but
Yes,
I think
yes,
that's
get through
the
this,
most
right.
interesting thing to me is that it's so beautiful right up until we get to the bull. It's like,
But you know what I noticed is very important? You get it before the slaughter of the bull. If you notice, he says, lay your hands upon the head of the bull. And I'll tell you what I think that means. I really believe this, that God loves his animals. And even though he's sacrificing these animals, he wants you to respect the animal. That's what I got out of it.
yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And I think it probably does have something to do with the kosher killing of animals, maybe.
Yeah.
yeah,
meat.
that's possible.
Because I think I am absolutely with you. I think the kosher killing of the animal for eating, I think, is the way to do it. I'm always shocked by what, just everyone, how mass-produced meat is nowadays. It's like, oh my gosh, how awful have we gotten?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things other than meat that are mass produced you wouldn't want to know about either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not staying there at that time because I would vomit right there and then.
Yeah, you wouldn't though. But you see, the truth of the matter is, Myrna, if you lived in that time, that's what you would have been used to, because everybody killed for food.
Right.
And you see, you're not used to it. You're not living in the land like they used to. They didn't go to a Stop and Shop or a market basket, where everything was cleaned up,
Even if you went to Lay's the Wolf, the chicken was probably still alive when you picked it out,
That's right. So it wasn't that long ago. Even in Russia, they had to, kind of face the blood and all that. So I'm going to be honest. We're just in the more modern era now, but for the most part, this is how people lived for centuries.
What centuries? When I grew up, they had a kosher butcher in Malden, many of them.
Oh, yes, there were many. Matter of fact, I live right next to Glick's. Remember Glick's kosher restaurant
Of course.
in Malden?
The
Yeah,
Schlachter would
I lived
pick them
one
up
block
and go.
from Glick's.
Yeah,
I was kosher, my husband was Orthodox, so I kept kosher. So
Well, yes, I mean, many times as a kid, we'd sit in the back of and look into the window in the butcher and watch them slaughter the chickens.
right. So I just want you to know that it
Not
was
far
not
from where
that
you live, Gary.
unusual.
Gary,
wasn't
right
that
down the street
unusual.
where you live.
That's right. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I remember Glick's because when I first got married, I moved to Malden. Then I moved out of Malden. So I do know a little bit.
Anyway.
Anyways.
Wonderful. Do you want to pick up, Dr. Ed, at 15?
Yes. Next, take the one ram and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the ram's head. Slaughter the ram and take its blood and dash it against all sides of the altar. Cut up the ram into sections, watch its entrails and legs, and put them with its quarters and its head. Turn all of the ram into smoke upon the altar. It is a burnt offering to the Eternal, a pleasing odor, an offering by fire to the Eternal. Then take the other ram and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the ram's head. Slaughter the ram and take some of its blood and put it on the ridge of Aaron's right ear and on the ridges of his sons' right ears, and on the thumbs of their right hands and on the big toes of their right feet, and dash the rest of the blood against every side of the altar round about. Take some of the blood that is on the altar and some of the anointing oil and sprinkle upon Aaron and his vestments, and also upon his sons and his sons' vestments. That shall he and his vestments be holy, as well as his sons and his sons' vestments. You shall take from the ram the fat parts, the broad tail, the fat that covers the entrails, the protuberance of the liver, the 2 kidneys within the fat on them, and the right thigh, for this is a ram of ordination. Add 1 flat loaf of bread, 1 cake of oil bread, and 1 wafer from the basket of unleavened bread that is before the Eternal. Place all these on the palms of Aaron and his sons and offer them as an elevation offering before the Eternal. Take them from their hands and turn them into smoke upon the altar, and with a burnt offering, a pleasing odor before the Eternal. It is an offering by fire to the Eternal. Then take the breast of Aaron's ram of ordination and offer it as elevation offering before the Eternal. It shall be your portion. You shall consecrate the beast that was offered as an elevation offering, and the thigh that was offered as a gift offering from the ram of ordination, from that which was Aaron's and from that which was his son's. And those parts shall be due for all time from the Israelites to Aaron and his descendants. They are a gift, and they shall be a gift from the Israelites. They give the Eternal out their sacrifices of well-being. The sacramental vestments of Aaron shall pass on to his sons after him, and then to be anointed and ordained in. He among the sons who becomes priest in his stead, who enters the tent of meeting to officiate within the sanctuary, shall wear them 7 days. Shall I continue? You shall take the ram of ordination and boil its flesh in the sacred precinct. And Aaron and his son shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket at the entrance of the meeting. These things shall be eaten only by those of whom expiation was made with them when they were ordained and consecrated. They may not be eaten by a lay person, for they are holy. And if any of the flesh of ordination or any of the bread is left until morning, you shall put what is left to the fire. It shall not be eaten, for it is holy. Thus you shall do to Aaron and his sons, just as I commanded you. You shall ordain them through 7 days, and each day you shall prepare a bull as a purgation offering for expiation, and you shall purge the altar by performing purification upon them, and you shall anoint it to consecrate it. 7 days you shall perform purification for the altar to consecrate it, and the altar shall become most holy. Whatever touches the altar shall become consecrated. Now that is what you shall offer upon the altar, 2 yearling lambs each day, regularly. You shall offer 1 lamb in the morning, and you shall offer the other lamb at twilight. There shall be 1/10 of a measure of choice flour with 1/4 of hin of beaten oil mixed in, and a libation of corded hin of wine for 1 lamb. And you shall offer the other lamb at twilight, repeating it with it, the meal offering of the morning.
What does expiation mean? I have a question.
Dying.
What is it?
Dying.
Dying?
I'm
Like
looking it up.
forgiven.
Whatever sins
Oh, reparation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Expiation.
Yeah. Purgation that they use is purification.
Right.
What's expiation?
It means to
Give the
make an offering to forgive sins, right, or something like that. Oh, I just had it.
Excuse me, if they were
Yeah.
wearing these fancy outfits, these things with the jewels, by now they're covered with blood.
You're really into this.
Yeah, but now they're
I'm
going to
sorry,
be
I find it so
watching
funny.
things all over again. This is awful.
Well, you know, you got to realize they're in the desert and there's no water to wash up with. And
But the blood is all over the place.
And it gets worse. It gets worse. You know, they're covered in blood. They can't wash their clothes. And lastly, where are they getting all these animals? They just left Egypt.
Well, they took the animals with them. No, they did take the animals with them.
Every
They did.
single day, they're going to kill a bunch of lambs and bulls. And let me tell you,
Are you trying to say that's a lot of bull?
Yeah, but there was water. I want to tell you, Ed, there was water. Remember, they constantly were getting miracles of wells, and Miriam helped them with water. I mean, there was water. There was water. They couldn't have survived if there wasn't any water.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And notice how the priests, it seems to me that they're kind of establishing that line of what the priest can consume, because the priest doesn't end up with any land, correct? So they need to be fortified somehow. And it sounds like this is part of it. Yeah, the Levites, right? Any other things, Gary? Is there anything else coming out of this for you?
No, not that I could think of.
So, Annie, do you want to continue where Dr. Ed left off? We're going to go repeating. It's a long sentence. That's a long sentence. It starts at 40. And you shall offer the other lamb at twilight, repeating it with the meal offering of the morning. And then at the top of the page, go for it.
Yeah.
All right. So I was asking a question whether it was the every day or just the 7 days while they're consecrating the temple.
Yeah, I think it's 7 days. Each day of the 7 days.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it's like, because if it was like every day, it would be like crazy.
Right.
But like, it seems like if it was, if they're just doing it to consecrate the temple, it would kind of be a little less harsh. But
Right.
where am I starting?
Actually, the sentence starts at number 40.
40. There shall be a tenth of measure of choice flour with a quarter of a hin of beaten oil mixed in, and a libation of quarter hin of wine for one lamb. And you shall offer the other lamb at twilight, repeating it with the meal offering of the morning, with its libation, an offering by fire for a pleasing odor to the Eternal, a regular burnt offering throughout the generation at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Eternal. For there I will meet with you, and there I will speak with you, and there I will meet with the Israelites, and it shall be sanctified by my presence. I will sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar, and I will consecrate Aaron and his sons to serve me as priests. I will abide among the Israelites, and I will be their God, and they shall know that I, the Eternal, am their God, who brought them out from the land of Egypt, that I might abide among them. I, the Eternal, their God. You shall make an altar for burning incense, make it of acacia wood, and shall be a cubit long and a cubit wide. It shall be square, and 2 cubits high, its horns of one piece with it. Overlay it with pure gold, its top, its sides round about, and its horns, and make a gold molding for it round about, and make 2 gold rings for it under its molding. Make them on the 2 side walls on opposite sides. They shall serve as holders for poles with which to carry it. Make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. Place it in front of the curtain that is over the ark of the pact, in front of the cover that is over the pact, where I will meet with you. On it, Aaron shall burn aromatic incense. He shall burn it every morning when he tends the lamps, and Aaron shall burn it at twilight when he lights the lamps, a regular incense offering before the Eternal throughout the ages. You shall not offer alien incense on it, or a burnt offering, or a meal offering.
So, is anything sticking out to you at all from this?
Yes.
Go for it.
yes.
What is it, Aki?
The difference of the materials that the altar that animals are sacrificed on, because they're made more of like copper and materials that aren't as sacred as like gold.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the difference? Because the animals are more like, we talk about Esau and Jacob, the two.
Mm-hmm.
Animals are more like Esau, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the incense is more spiritual, because I've read somewhere that I don't know, some rabbis, they consider the word for like incense, ketoret, they consider that to be an acronym, with the kuf standing for kedusha, the tate stands for tahora, purity, the resh is rachamim, or mercy, and the tav is tikva, and hope. So it represent, the only time there's an animal offering made on the incense altar is on Yom Kippur. It's the only time throughout the year that there's any animal sacrifice made on that altar.
But
But
who's
I'm just
giving
saying-
all these instructions? God's spending all his time, giving all these instructions in such detail? Come on.
But he had an engineer doing it for him.
Yeah.
But
You haven't seen a rabbi's contract yet.
yeah.
It's more detailed.
It's
it's
like
just
the
the
Bill
i-
Gates of their age. Yeah.
Well, you know,
It's
there
like
may
the-
have been somebody translating it, maybe took a little bit of poetic license when it was giving the details.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Gary?
No, I'm just saying it's interesting, like I say, like the materials and everything that, and it also ties in, not to get too far ahead, but you remember when Aaron's two sons, immediately after they're given these instructions, when Nadab and Abihu, when they get consumed by fire, it says right here that they shall not bring any, well, where was the
Alien. Yeah.
alien, you shall not offer alien incense on it, or a burnt, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Specifically after, but I'm just saying that my point is that there is like something more, it's like a higher level of being, like it's the animal sacrifices of the id, and the incense offerings of the super ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that sense.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to look. I love that interpretation. That's so great. That's so great. And anything else? What was someone else going to say? Anything? Because what really kind of sticks out in my mind is when God says, "I will meet you, where I will meet with you," and He said it I think it was said a couple other times. Just the last page. Maybe I thought it was. I wish I marked it, but
Crazy.
but all I'm gonna say is this is I will meet you. I will meet you, for there I will meet with you. There I will speak with you. There I will meet with the Israelites, and it shall be sanctified by my presence. And what this reminds me of, sort of, is how in the end of Deuteronomy, do you remember what Moses says? One of his last commandments to the people is that he says something to the effect of, don't, if someone says it's up there, it's the presence of God's up there on the mountain. He says, don't go, you don't need to go there. Or if it's under the sea, you don't need to go there. It's as near as your own heart. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah, the word of God, like
Must
it's
have
not
missed that.
something that's external to you.
Right.
In
And
other
so,
words, it's not a real effort for you to abide by the commandments because they're your natural way, in other words.
right,
And
if you follow these,
they're not external to you.
right, and like this is all laying out that whole path, I believe. So I'm kind of getting a little metaphysical, I guess, with it because I know that some of the rabbis do this too. My friends at Chabad are always talking about when you read the Torah, you're reading it on the on one level, but it's also kind of underneath. There's like a subconsciousness to it, and I feel like this is all these the vision, the ideas of what they were wearing. I mean, last week we talked about the very particular cubits and all the fabric that was wrapped around the walls of the tabernacle and then the tent of meeting. I believe what this is doing is kind of creating this inside of us in a subconscious type of way so that we're ready to be in that presence. Just a thought.
There's one thing that gets me a little confused. I thought this is where I've always been having trouble with Torah. I always thought this whole communication with God was really between God and Moses. And now you're telling me that God is talking to the people. So now I'm getting a little confused because Moses hasn't died yet.
Right, but I think some of it is that the priests. Well, this is only my interpretation. Here's just a stab at it. But it's so sometimes Moses, as we know, won't be always doing all the judgments and everything else. But I think the role of the priests might be to do that. To meet with God, and also.
Okay, so they're the ones. Okay. Even if that's so they're the ones talking to the people, not God is talking to the people. They're doing it through the priests. That's where I'm having trouble. You understand? It's not that.
We remember who's the only person who's probably literate here. Remember, they're all slaves. They're all former slaves.
I understand that.
The only person who was literate, who could have written this stuff down, was Moses because he was brought up as royal.
Yeah, but remember, Moses didn't write it down. That happened years later. It was all oral. It was never written down at this time. It was oral now. It was never written down at this time. It was written down later on. It wasn't written. It was oral at this point. And it was passed down orally. So that was not written at this time. That didn't happen until much later.
Not if you ask the Orthodox.
No,
Yeah,
the Orthodox will even tell you. No, wait a minute. The Orthodox will tell you that yes, it was written down, but not during this time. It was written down between the 70, what is it, that Sanhedrin. That's when it was done. Even because my husband went to Maimonides and he explained that to me. For many, many centuries, it was passed down orally. Then it was.
Yeah, Canticle for Leibowitz. Y'all got to read it.
Canticle for Leibowitz. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every aspiring clergyman should read that.
Well, but I'm saying it was not written down then because it wasn't written. It was orally passed for I don't know how long, but then it was eventually written down. But it was orally passed for I don't know how long, but it was a long time. My husband used to study Gomorrah. I'm telling you, that's how the Orthodox.
Cynthia, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that they were illiterate, but and so on. But Moses, supposedly, he wrote the 10 Commandments and brought those down on the tablets, so he could write.
Yeah, but he wasn't the one who did it. It was God that wrote those. God did that. Supposedly, God did it through the fire and things.
Yeah.
And
that wasn't Moses, that was God.
And all of these instructions had to go to Aaron, who became the high priest from the get-go. I mean,
yeah, but it was all oral.
Person. Right.
Well, yeah, you can believe
but they had to remember all of this stuff.
Yeah, and they did. They passed it down orally from one generation to the next until that Sanhedrin, that the 70, brilliant people wrote it down. They said they were afraid.
You don't remember what you had for lunch. Neither do I.
I know, but in those days they had better memories than we do.
Oh,
But yeah, exactly. Think about it. Every
No,
night at like,
they weren't listening to TV or
yeah.
Facebook. You know,
This
they weren't
was their
listening-
TV. This was their TV. They were doing the same stories over and
right.
over again, so that they could put it in their brain, so that they could
They
do
weren't
it for
playing
generations.
sports. It was very
Right.
different. They
Right.
weren't having business meetings. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, Ruth. As a husband, as a fiance looks at his wife and says, honey, you know that there were 5 cubics on the breastplate.
Wait a minute, it's like being a Mason. You can't tell the holy, the stuff that you memorize. You have to keep it within the Masons.
I don't know.
I
Is
don't
that
know.
right?
Yeah, seriously.
not-
Whatever.
I will never
We
be.
are
I
getting
will
way
never
off
be in
the beaten
join an
track here.
organization that someone that would have me as a member. Anyway,
Okay.
That's why you're here, Dr. Ed.
Mike, I love your comment, Mike, because this says it all. Mike, what you said is that there is a way of reading this, and then there is an undercurrent, something below this.
I
You know,
agree.
And
Yeah.
it's you could make fun of this, but there is a code here that we may not understand.
I
There's-
agree.
There is something here that we will never understand, that the people who ultimately wrote this, there was a reason that they wrote this. There's something under here that
Right.
we as mortals have to understand what is really here. You've hit
Yeah.
it all, Michael. You should be a rabbinical student and not a but you hit it on the
Seminary
mark.
student. Yeah.
Seminary student. You
We
got
all-
it.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this secularly, it's hodgepodge. It's
Right. Well,
something
that's the whole
below
point,
this.
is that
Yeah.
a lot is lost in the translation.
There is something here that we don't know about. It's like the history of the secret of Oak Island. It's just something here.
Right.
We need a Rosetta Stone, Dr. Ed. We need another one for this.
No, I think that we're trying to take this apart too much, because as far as I'm concerned, this is God's truth that he's passing along. And this is something that they realize. I mean, this is holier than holy. And so I think it's not meant for people like us to pick at it. Just assume that they knew what the heck they were doing.
Yeah. Have you heard of something called the Torah codes? Where
Yes.
where you
I
can
have
read
the
it?
book.
Yeah.
I-
Do you? Yeah. Can you describe it for me? Oh, here he's going to go get it. Move your camera over where you're going into that library. But I don't know if you look up Torah codes on Google. There's rabbis will read the Torah down and sideways and have.
Yeah, but that's part of the Gemara.
Is that the Gemara too? Okay.
That's part of the Gemara. It's part of the Talmud. And that I'm going to tell you, Orthodox Jews that study like this, that's all they do is study what the rabbis interpreted from those days. And that's what that Torah could. And so that's why they're constantly studying it over and over again, because there's many different viewpoints on it.
Mhm.
And so it's something that you could never really get the answer to. That's what's nice about this, is that you can have your own interpretation in understanding the ethics of this. What's the word? It's infinity, like, you know what I'm saying?
It's always a mystery. Yeah, it's a mystery.
Yeah, it's
That's why
Michael
we keep
Zeitcher
studying it
gave me
for
this
you.
book. It's Cracking the Code of the Bible.
right.
I haven't started it yet. Now you got me going. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
read it.
But I just said, Ed, when you were getting the book, I was saying that there is still no, even if you read this is not the answer, because brilliant rabbis that study this all the time still don't have the answer. There isn't an answer. If you're looking for an answer, you're going to go and drive yourself crazy, because there's so many. Just what what Mike said is true. It's so much underneath that we don't even understand, because we weren't there then to understand what all this meant. It's just this. What's interpreted now is what we try to understand of what went on.
Right. And that
It's-
it's been around for thousands and thousands
Yeah,
of
yeah,
years. It
it's
matters
like me
so
trying
much.
to figure out what
Nobody's
happened to the
right, nobody's
farmer.
wrong. It's like all the Jews. You get 2 Jews and you get 3 opinions.
Right, you get 2 Jews, you get 10 different opinions.
Well, okay, so did you get 2 Jews, you get 3 temples.
Yeah, right.
That
So
happened with Scott and Margaret.
Right. I mean, but way back before the temples and everything, I mean, it's so much that we don't know before things were even written down. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's like the telephone game. Let's say they did
right.
pass it on orally. You know that when you pass a story down, it gets kind of like, construed after a while.
Mhm. So, Braca, you've been so quiet. Do you want to add anything to this?
You know what? I'm learning by listening to you, to all of you.
Well, we want to hear your
I'm learning.
opinion.
It's in some of the thoughts.
That's great.
No, I think Hashem wanted this detail. This was mandated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. These
was mandated.
details. These
But
details are
what you said, I am going to be thinking about, that maybe it creates something in us subconsciously that prepares us to receive this truth
Yes.
and to interact with Hashem the way Hashem wants us to.
Well, that's even, I think, part of the reason why everything is so detailed. Like you talk about the robe, like just seeing this robe, like the way it's described, it's so awe-inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the fixtures in the synagogue. We don't worship them, but they're conducive to worship.
Mm-hmm.
And like the intricacy of the vestments, the tabernacle, the altar, all of that perfection and precision is conducive to to
Absolutely.
something larger than
Right.
life,
To elevate us.
Yes. Yeah, you can almost feel it like an electric pulse, It's almost like you have all these different colored stones. You have all these different, the vestments, everything about it. It just seems like it conducts energy. It conducts God's presence in a lot of
And
ways.
it's exact, it's so
Yeah.
exact, like, and it's
Right.
And
It's
the
like a
more
circuit.
complicated it is, the more the people realize that this is way above them and somebody is actually controlling things and they will just follow. Because you have
The codes embody information about the unfolding future at a level of detail previously unimagined.
That's right. That's
Boom,
true.
boom, boom. So after we're done the Torah, we're going to be all reading that book.
That book is not the. I just want you to know that there's no one book that's the answer. That's
the
thing.
beauty of it. That's the beauty.
It's no one book. No one book is going to give you the answer.
And that brings us back to the Torah. I forgot where we were.
We lost.
I think we're at, Acacia Wood at number 6. Braca, would you like to take
Yes.
over at number 6?
Place it in front of the curtain that is over the ark of the pact, in front of the cover that is over the pact, where I will meet with you. On it, Aaron shall burn aromatic incense. He shall burn it every morning when he ends the lamps. And Aaron shall burn it at twilight when he lights the lamp. A regular incense offered before the Eternal throughout the ages. You shall not offer alien incense or burnt offering or a meal offering. Neither shall you pour a libation on it. Once a year, Aaron shall perform purification upon its horns with blood of the purgation offering of purification. Purification shall be performed upon it once a year throughout the ages. It is most holy, holy to the Eternal.
Wow, that's the end.
That's the end this week. Wow.
Wow.
and now
Well, we did.
now I can understand why so much incense. It has to
And
cover.
that one time a year, that's Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur, right?
I'm glad I wasn't living then.
You still are thinking like a 21st century person.
I
That's your
know
problem.
it. All I can think of is the good thing they didn't have a chapter of PETA there.
A chapter of what?
PETA.
Oh, right, PETA. Yeah, they wouldn't be happy.
You have to go back to their way of living. That you're thinking too much like a 20th century person.
I
That's
know. I have a problem, but I'm living in the 21st century.
So,
I have to say
understand.
something for it because we're here and nobody else from that age. I mean, whatever they've done, it's held us together all these years.
Yeah.
We're still here and we're the only one group of people left from that.
That's
With that
true.
code, you know.
it's
I
amazing.
should hope we're not the only Jews here.
No, well, you know what I'm not making myself clear, but you know what I'm saying.
I know.
But
I'm
there's
just
got to
jo-
be
I'm
something
just
to it.
joking.
All
with
that
you.
acacia wood and lapis lazuli kept us together.
You have to understand, I'm a joker.
I don't know how acacia wood
A
smells.
smoker and a
Sounds
midnight
like it
toker.
smells nice. Something about the acacia flows.
Yeah.
Right.
the-
Well,
It does.
we learned a lot about the detail, and that's really important because all of these details, like all of you said, has something significant that got us to today, which I
That's
think
right.
is very
We're still,
important.
we're still here.
We're still here after all these details we don't even understand. Isn't that
Exactly.
interesting? Yeah.
We're still here because we haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, that's okay.
And
That's
the
all right.
Israelis have
We have all of
contributed
our
much
life to do
this,
it.
to
Right.
fighting off this pandemic. Yeah.
A very famous scientist was asked, when you die and you go before God, what are you going to ask him? And he said, God, what's the real answer?
And he's not going to give him the answer either.
Yeah.
I don't know what she'll say.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah,
There you go.
I hope God doesn't think we're all sacrilegious.
Oh, stop worrying about judgment with yourself. You're going to be okay. My gosh.
Sure. Can I count on you?
Yes.
You can count on me. Of course, I know everything, right?
Right. Well, look at how he created us, or she created us. Look at it.
That's right.
We're all different. We all have our opinions. It's great.
That's correct.
And
They
we have
say that
free
when the
labor.
Mashiach comes back, it could come back as an animal. It doesn't have to be a human.
Wow.
Yeah, it could come back as the Mashiach could be a dog or a cat or a
Well,
or
don't
a-
come
or a-
back as
or
a bull or
or a bull, right?
Yeah, or a lamb, you get slaughtered.
or a lamb, right?
Anyway,